Fine, Ashok. I would like to address how multiple stakeholders in PSUs, how they are being managed and the vast influence which you have talked about. I will try to cover that stakeholder management as well. So starting with the webinar, I was saying that the agenda for today's session as listed on the screen is to talk about what is project management, a couple of phases or stages beyond the generic project life cycle. We are all aware of the generic project life cycle, which starts from initiation and ends up at closure. But in my opinion, project management and a project manager has roles to play beyond that project life cycle as well. And then the big question, when to bring a project manager. The PMBOK says that the project manager has to be brought as early as possible in a project. And maybe we can discuss during the presentation, like what stage you feel a project manager must come into a project. The key processes in a public sector undertaking. And finally, a food for thought by talking about the marketing bent. Marketing bent in a sense that the marketing mindset, is it really needed for a project manager? So the slide also talks about a project manager and a leader. The reason why I have included a project manager and a leader is twofold. One, this is a leadership webinar series. And second, I believe that project manager has all the qualities of taking up the leadership roles. For that, he needs to build upon his team skills. He needs to build upon his problem solving skills, and he needs to be competent enough. So moving on to the next slide, we will be discussing about project management. So like the project management, we all know it starts from initiation, moves on to the planning, then execution, then monitoring control, and the closure phase. As the PMI defines, project management is indeed the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. The key point in the definition by PMI also includes that a project team often includes people who don't usually work together. So when people who usually don't work together, the natural question in my understanding emerges is that of synergy. So when people of different backgrounds or different cultures, different geographies, different functions have to work together, there must be a synergy between them. Then only we can achieve the objectives of a project. So moving on to the next slide, I would talk about a couple of phases beyond the project life cycle. So what we have here is the number one phase, according to me, is a proposal to the prospective customer. We all understand that the prospective customer is the portfolio or the function of the marketing manager. But if a project manager is involved in the proposals to a prospective customer, it results in a greater synergy with the marketing team. The project manager who deals with the project at the end is also able to tell the functional requirements of that project and include those in the proposal, thereby creating a greater synergy between the marketing team and the project management team. The next phase, which generally is not covered in the generic life cycle of a project, is the FNC stage, or the feasibility analysis and the commercial stage. Again, if a project manager is involved in the feasibility analysis for a prospective customer or a customer who has been converted, it leads to a greater synergy with the implementation team. Now, the implementation team can be your network team, your field team, your data center team, your telepresence center team. So whosoever team is involved in the final implementation of that project, if a project manager is also able to guide the feasibility analysis, it leads to a greater cooperation between the implementation team and the project management team. And the last phase, which generally happens after the closure phase of the project life cycle, is the operation and maintenance handholding. The operation and maintenance is the phase where the rest of the project or the project for the rest of its life remains. So it is very important that a project manager is able to do a good hand holding with the O&M team, and he completes the SLA reconciliation for at least 1 quarter. He completes invoicing of the invoicing for at least 1 quarter. So it leads to the greater synergy with the operations team. And what happens is that the project is able to deliver the objectives for which it has been envisaged. So I would like to ask you, like, when do you think the project manager should be brought into a project? Now, this is a very important question. People have different answers to that. After knowing these phases, which occurs after and before the generic project life cycle, what according to you should be the stage where a project manager should pitch in? Pratha, maybe we can so that it becomes more interactive and we get to know.
Yeah, in my opinion, this is Ashok Rathi. In my opinion, project manager should be brought into before, in the sales stage itself, before the project is initiated, so that it has broader and in-depth knowledge about the project and easier for the project manager to execute thereafter.
Okay, great. That indeed it should be brought. The project manager has to be brought even before the initiation of the project. Correct. So that initiation phase, like even before the initiation of a phase, there is a phase wherein the marketing team is involved in the cold calling of the customer, where the marketing team is involved in finding out the prospective customer. So a project manager, if he is involved in the technical discussions of those calls, of those proposals, it not only leads to a better conversion of that customer, it also gives a sense of responsibility to that project manager and to the marketing manager as well. So like Mr. Rathi rightly pointed out that he must be brought before the initiation phase. In my understanding, he indeed must be brought before the initiation phase, and he must be inclusive of the prospective leads as well. So he must be involved in making the presentations, making the proposals for the prospective customer. Any other thoughts by anyone? Otherwise, we'll move to the next slide. Or if in case there is a difference of opinion, we can discuss so that we have a greater understanding of when to bring a project manager into project. So this is a very important milestone. The more you delay the entry of a project manager to a project, the more hurdles it creates, the lesser synergy it creates. So it is very important that the project manager must involve on his own, and also the management must create an ecosystem wherein the project manager is able to come into a project before a customer is even on board.
Right, Mr. Ravi Kuran and Mr. Meenakshi. Ms. Meenakshi also have given the same answers. If anybody wants to speak, you can unmute yourself and speak. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Someone wanted to speak, anything?
So I guess it's clear, it's true that he must be brought before the beginning of the project or even before the bidding of the project. It is also important to understand what is that particular stage. That particular stage is indeed the proposal stage, wherein you are not even at a stage where you can even convert a customer. So you are just thinking that a prospective customer could be converted. So a project manager should involve himself or herself in the proposal stage itself. Fine, so we'll move on to the next slide and just talk about key processes in the project management, or the key processes in the project management in a PSU environment. Like Ravi has correctly pointed about the bidding stage. So there is a stage like before bidding stage. So there is a stage called pre-bidding, and the pre-bidding stage involves primarily the RFP and the RFQ, wherein you have a requirement, you send the request for proposal. So, for example, there are Wi-Fi has to be installed at the establishing the Wi-Fi at all the railway stations. So Railtel in that part would request for the proposal. We'll request for the proposal from the prospective vendors. Based on that proposal, there will be a request for quotation. The quotation will be called for that particular work for installation of Wi-Fi at the railway stations. Once that RFQ is finalized, the tender has been finalized, the L1 has been selected, then the project starts. The project starts. Before the project start itself, the estimate has to be sanctioned. The abstract estimate and then the detailed estimate is being approved and sanctioned. In RailTel, we are using a platform called e-Office, which is the electronic office, as the name suggests, and is able to deliver the digital mode of sanction of estimate. So earlier the sanction, you need to be prepared and sanctioned through the hard copies. Now it has all moved online, and we are able to use the tool of e-Office, which Indian Railways is also using, and they get the sanction of the estimate in the e-Office. After that comes generally the key processes of procurement. So the procurement also, a lot of digital platforms are coming in the market these days. E-Tender is one. Then the GEM, which is the government e-marketplace, is another digital platform to procure the material. So not only it saves the physical transactions or the physical meeting up of the files and other things, it also helps in maintaining the transparency. The next key process is the implementation phase, wherein the key focus is on the last mile delivery, where the key focus is to connect the last mile, to deliver the last mile. And then we move on to the MBOK process. MBOK process is generally specific to the public sector undertakings. This is not predominantly available in the private sector. MBOK is nothing but a measurement book, wherein after the project, the measurements have to be recorded both by the RailTel and the vendor team, and they are jointly signed. And based on those recorded measurements, the invoicing happens. So that leads to the next stage, which is of the invoicing, wherein the reconciliation and billing happens. And finally, the operation and maintenance stage, wherein the project remains for the rest of its life. So these are the key processes generally in a project, right from the pre-bid to estimate sanction to procurement, implementation, MBOK writing, invoicing, and the operation maintenance. So if in case anyone would like to understand more about these processes, let us discuss the chat option, or you can speak about it.
Yeah, any questions, clarification needed? You can put in chat, or you can unmute and ask directly. Yeah. Yes, it is from Mr. Ravi Kiran. Could you please tell more about MBOK with an example? Mr. Ankur?
Sorry.
Yeah. Right, okay.
MBOK is predominantly also called a pink book in the Indian Railways context. So a pink book is almost next to a legal document. A PIMBOK is a notebook wherein you write the measurements. You will record the activities related to the project. So for example, I will take the example of Smart Digital Classroom project, which I would be talking about in coming slides. So Smart Digital Classroom project was a project to deliver a smart classroom to the remote locations in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So more than 300 schools were connected digitally using the cloud connectivity by RailTel and providing the integration of a couple of digital services like telepresence, internet bandwidth, MPLS VPN, and the data center services and the application portal for the education. So the vendors are identified for some of the activities or each of the activities. So one of the activity was to provide the last mile infrastructure at a school. So a last mile infrastructure at a school consisted of providing the earthing, providing the router, providing the network connectivity, providing television set, providing the SPD boxes, which are surge protection devices, and giving the last mile connectivity to that school. So the vendor who has been identified after the bidding process will be the vendor selected for that process, and he would write the work that has been done in that MBOK. So the representative from RailTel will write the MBOK in front of the vendor, and he will record the measurements. So the measurements will be the measurements of the works that have been done in that particular school. So those measurements will be recorded, and finally it will be jointly signed by the RailTel representative and the vendor, and then approved, and the payment will be done based on those measurements. Now, the importance of this exercise is that it leads to a transparency in recording the measurements, or in recording the measurements of the work being done at the site. So whatever work has been done at the site, it has been jointly measured, recorded, and signed by both the representatives, and the due dates of the works are mentioned. Any LD that has to be imposed for the delay of the work is also mentioned. Any extension that has been provided for the work is also mentioned. So it is a brief of whatever work has been done for that particular project, and that can even be taken up in the legal code in case there are deviations at a later stage. So if any of the party is not paying, or any of the party is not acknowledging what has been done, that serves as a legal document, and it is stored for close to 10 years. For close to 10 years, that MBOK is maintained as it is.
All right. Thank you, sir. I hope that answers the question, Mr. Ravi. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Ashok Rathi. I just wanted to correlate whether the MBOK can be considered as a scope validation check sheet kind of a thing.
It can be one of the purpose of the MBOK is indeed scope validation and check sheet kind of a thing, but after the work has been done. So the
Yes,
scope validation happens before the start of the project, during the project as well, as per the processes which are involved. In addition to that, when the vendor claims that the work has been completed, the invoicing will happen after this final stage of an MBOK, wherein the measurements are recorded and the scope is validated once again, and it is being checked once again by both the parties.
So the project deliverables are met, and based on this, the further invoicing can be done.
Correct. Even your analysis is quite apt, because it leads to a validation wherein it also requires at least a 20% check by a representative who is not involved in the project. So again, to increase the transparency and ensure that the deliverables are met, it also requires that 20% of the work as a sample check has to be done by a person who is not directly related with the project.
Right. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, okay, we have a question from Prem, I believe. Is it a kind of WordPress doc or software tool? It is not a software tool at this point of time. It's a hard copy. It's a book. It's a book which is called a pink book in the government sector. And it's a printed pink book with blank sheets. And it's a document which cannot have an overwriting, or it cannot have the things which are deleted or cut across and then again written. So it is a very, like I said, it's a next to a legal document. Whatever is captured in the MBOK is final and binding on everyone. But it is a physical book. It is not at this point of time a software tool.
All right, sir. Thank you. Anyone else for any further questions at this point?
Sorry, one last question. I have been seeing in the PSUs, these MBOKs are being prepared since long now. Is there any digitization being thought of, that these MBOKs can also be not a hard copy, but can go into a soft copy kind of a thing?
It would be, I believe the need of the hour is indeed to convert from a physical copy to a soft copy. But at this point of time, the same practice is being continued. But I believe it would be changed, but not at this point of time. Even today, the MBOK has to be recorded and it has to be done the same way.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Move on.
Yeah, I think we can go forward, sir. There is no questions at the moment as of now.
So we'll move on to the next slide, which talks about a sample work breakdown structure. So this is a work breakdown structure, and everyone, because we are all related to the project management fraternity, and I believe most of you are part of ProVenture, so we are very well aware what a WPS is. So indeed, the project management tools are being used in government sectors these days, and there is a lot of traction, increasing traction, even from the tenders from the central government or state governments or undertakings, which ask a project management tool to be deployed and used in a project. So this was one of the work breakdown structure, which I have created for one of the project, namely the Smart Digital Classroom project, wherein, like I was talking about, it was to provide the digital connectivity or to convert a classroom into a smart, digitally connected classroom in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So these were the girl child schools, and the entire state of Andhra Pradesh was divided into 13 districts. So the purpose behind having a work breakdown structure was to list out all the activities, was to plan the project well, to enhance a synergy between the parties who are involved in the execution, monitoring, control, planning, and even the closure of the project. So right from the district level, it went to the site, the individual site, the individual school. And at the individual schools, there were a couple of work packages and a list of activities. The work packages were actually divided into the things as being listed out on the screen: the electronics and electrical works, the last mile connectivity is the LMC, the services, services in a sense, what kind of services were provided to that school, and then the testing phase and the documentation and closure. So the reason I'm presenting this work breakdown structure is to give you a fair idea of the kind of activities that are involved in one of a project which is taken by the public sector undertakings. So under the electronics and electrical works, the activities listed were the installation of the television, the installation and commissioning of the PC stick, the UPS and the surge protection device installation, the earthing and wiring. So again, like there was a question in the beginning of the management of the various stakeholders that are involved in the project. So indeed, this particular project had, I would say, a number of stakeholders, There was one stakeholder who was doing this particular work package of electronics and electrical works. He was the infrastructure vendor. There were 3 stakeholders involved in the last mile connectivity itself. So because the last mile connectivity was either through the RF connectivity or the optical fiber connectivity, or through one more connectivity, which is not listed out here, was the railway connectivity, which is a sub-activity of OFC connectivity. So there were 3 different stakeholders who were involved in that kind of last mile connectivity because of their expertise being involved. And then there was a stakeholder who was delivering those services. So a stakeholder was delivering the telepresence services. Another was delivering the data center services. Another was delivering the IBW and the VPN services, which are nothing but the internet bandwidth and the virtual private network services. And the last one was delivering the application portal for the education through the online mode or the eVidya portal. And then all these stakeholders have to come together for the final testing phase, in which even representatives of RailTel were involved in the bandwidth and the VC testing. The bandwidth testing was happening at the site. The video conferencing testing was happening, taking the end user into picture and taking the data center and the telepresence stock of RailTel. And then finally, the documentation, the SI documentation and the document submission and the closure, which is collecting the DOC from the stakeholder. Again, the end user, there were different layers of stakeholders being involved. The end user, there was the education ministry. Under the education ministry, there was secretary. Under the secretary, there were the state project director. Under state project director, there were the project offices. Under project offices, there were the individual schools head officer or the head schoolmaster, and then finally the teachers and the students. And then ultimately the payment has to be processed. So how the stakeholders, which indeed ranges from the government being one of the stakeholder, to the private players on the other hand, to the infrastructure vendors or the local vendors on one side, all of these were being managed through a series of meetings and by taking the activities of the project through a project management tool. So my one line answer to the stakeholder management, which was being asked in the beginning of the session, would be the usage of the correct project management tool. A correct project management tool helps you to identify the activities and helps you to monitor those activities, to report those activities, and also convene the relevant meetings for those activities. So that is one way of managing the stakeholders or the multiple stakeholders which are involved. And obviously there have been many challenges in managing those stakeholders. There were a lot of difference of opinions. There were even problems related to the legalities or the problems related to other factors, and they were to be sorted out by providing the access of the project management tool to those vendors and convening meetings from time to time. So moving on to the next slide. In case there are any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, I would be just talking in details about the Smart Classroom project and one other project which is listed in the presentation.
Yeah, any questions from anyone? So you can give in chat, or you can unmute and speak.
Maybe we can go back to the previous slide, and then if
Yes.
any questions related to the previous slide.
Yeah.
There are so many stakeholders over here, especially with the government sector. Is there any chance that there are some conflict of discussion, like he is not agree? Then what are the precautions that you take? What are the discussion action item you took to avoid this? Can you give the example?
See, there have been many challenges and there have been many conflicts in the opinions between the stakeholders. Now, one thing or the way those conflicts were being handled is through discussion, through project meetings, and then ultimately going back to the tender document that has been finalized or the MOU that was being agreed between the two parties. So it's very important to have the right set of documentation at every level. The documentation is very important. The documentation will speak for itself and will ensure that those difference of opinions are being addressed at the right time. So the documentation is the one important thing to have. And the other important thing is the licensing. So it's very important that you liaison with the government officers, you liaison with the private stakeholders, and you understand their problems before they become issues. So it is very important to understand what is a requirement, what is to be done, so that it does not ends up in becoming a conflict that has to be managed in a different way. So the communication is the key and the documentation is the tool.
All right. Thank you. That
Yes,
answers the
that
question.
answers to your question, or maybe we can discuss more. Yes.
It is all the PM is holding this activity or something else, like who is taking help from someone else?
Please pardon me.
It is a responsibility of the PM to interact with the customer here, like stakeholder, or it will like I will take the help from someone else in the team.
It is indeed the responsibility of the project manager to sort out these communication issues if they come. He can obviously take help of the, I would say, the functional managers in the sense the functional managers who are involved in the delivery of those services, or the functional managers who are involved in the last mile connectivity of those services. Because this is geographically spread out project, the project manager is sitting in one center location. He would be responsible for the licensing, but he would be taking assistance of the functional managers. So again, like I pointed out in the beginning also, why are the phases which are beyond the project life cycle important? These are important in order to have a greater synergy. These are important because a project manager must be very comfortable in the relationship he has with the different functional managers. And that can only come if he involves himself or herself project. So if you are able to talk to the marketing team during the proposal stage, or you are talking to the implementation team during the feasibility stage, these problems get reduced. Or if you are talking to the customer during the solution design stage, the problems get addressed. So it is very important that the project manager pitches into the project at the very start and is able to manage the stakeholders well.
All right. Thank you, sir. There is one question from.
Do we have an in-house PM tool? Yes,
Yes.
the PM tool is the Microsoft Project Professional tool. So that is being used, and that was being used for this project as well. So I have made use of the Microsoft Project Professional tool and the Power BI for the reporting.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions from anyone?
Fine, then we shall move on.
Yes, sir.
So I believe I have already spoken about the project, the Smart Digital Classroom project. In a nutshell, why I wanted to talk about this project was because it was being partnered by a lot of government as well as private stakeholders. So the partnership was, the objective was to provide the digital education to the girls' schools in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And the number of services that were being involved in this project included the telepresence connectivity, the internet bandwidth, the VPN connectivity, the data center services, the eVidya portal. So all of these services were integrated and the school was converted into a smart digital classroom. So right from the solution design, I would say, the solution design is also very important because of the ground realities of that school. So a school which is in the remote areas of Andhra Pradesh would also have severe or critical environment, critical weather conditions, and we need to provide an infrastructure which is able to sustain that critical environment. So thereby surge protection devices were included for this project and they were being deployed in the schools. Proper earthing was being done for those schools to have a robust and scalable infrastructure. In addition to that, the schools which are not generally feasible on the optical fiber connectivity, the traditional mode of connectivity, they were being explored through the radio frequency connectivity. And all of them were integrated onto the cloud services which are provided by RailTel. So a person who is even sitting in a different country could connect to these schools and can talk to these schools. So like I have been talking and stressing on the fact on the role of the project manager. So the role of the project manager or the project management for this particular project involved that the project manager must do a proper documentation, must liaison with the stakeholders, must conduct or convene regular meetings, must be using a project management tool for the planning, reporting, recording, and the monitoring of the entire project, and must have a final closure report. So even that does not end. The role of the project manager will not end at the closure stage of the project. He will have to handhold the operation and maintenance team as well, because that is the stage where the project lies. So the operation and maintenance team must be comfortable with what all are the deliverables in this project and how are they to be maintained. So what are the escalation matrices being involved and how the end user can log a complaint. So project manager must be aware of all these things, and even he should be going to the extra mile to take the feedback of the end user so that it can help in the ongoing maintenance of the project. So that was a project wherein a lot of stakeholders were being involved. So it was very important to have the correct planning. So that's what I wanted to talk about the Smart Digital Classroom project. Any questions on that? So that maybe we can explore further.
Any questions? Anyone who wants to know more about the project can give in chat. Yeah, I think we can move ahead, sir.
Fine. So the next project which I wanted to talk about was the project Nilgiri. I believe many of you might be aware of the free Wi-Fi that is available at the Indian railway stations. And Google was the first entity who has started the project Nilgiri in collaboration with RailTel and Indian Railways to provide a free and fast Wi-Fi connectivity to the Indian railway stations. So again, this project from the bidding stage to the solution design stage. Now, solution design is also very important. So a solution has to be designed for the railway stations to provide them a seamless connectivity of internet. So the network has to be designed. So again, it is very important that the project manager has the domain knowledge of the project. So because I have worked in the network center earlier to coming to the project management, I had a fair idea of the equipment or the devices that would be used to execute this project, to implement this project. And even for the people who do not have a network background, or for that matter of fact, who do not have the technical background, must be willing to understand the technicalities. Reason being, the estimate preparation is generally the responsibility of the project manager. So project manager who has to create the estimate, he must be aware of what are the equipment or what are the items that have to be included in the estimate. A lot of time it happens in the technical projects, those items are the technical items. Until and unless the project manager has some understanding of those technical entities or the items being used in the estimate, it is very likely that the estimate will not fulfill its purpose. So the project manager must involve himself from the stage of solution design. He must talk to the implementation team. He must talk to the network team if network team is the implementation team, and be involved in the solution designing of that particular project. So this project in a nutshell was to provide the free Wi-Fi connectivity to some 500 odd railway stations in a span of around 4 years. And they were being taken up with the first 100 stations in the first year and then 200 stations in the next every year. So in a span of 3 to 4 years was the project to be completed. And there were a lot of difficulties that were being faced on the ground. And again, it was important to understand the overall picture of the project. And also, if in case there is a delay at one particular railway station, how can the delay be managed by ramping up the operations at the other stations. So there had been many cases wherein the weather was not conducive to the implementation at the ground. So because the stations were divided into clusters, if there was a delay at one of the stations, the stations in that cluster, which were geographically separated from that state, were being ramped up. And as a result, the overall time for the project was being managed or was being maintained. So this was a project to provide the public Wi-Fi, the free fast Wi-Fi at the Indian Railway Station. At this point of time, more than 5,000 stations are having the free Wi-Fi at the railway station, which has gone from Google to Tata Trust and to other entities. And that is how the project has evolved.
Right. Any questions from
Yeah.
anyone? Anything related to this project from anyone who wants to know more about this?
These Wi-Fi's in the railway stations gives 4G services or still in the 3G services?
Your voice is not clear.
The
Pardon this?
Wi-Fi speed in the railway stations, I've also used it. I've been a customer to this particular project.
Okay.
End user, basically, not customer. But the data speed was not that good enough, at least for my experience and my point of view. What was the speed that you normally cater to? Still 3G, or it comes to the 4G stages?
See, it's the point of how this project, it depends on what particular station you have been using that particular Wi-Fi service. So it's like the 1G pipe has been provided to that particular station. So depending upon the number of users at that particular station, and depending upon the time that you had been using that Wi-Fi, the speed would vary. So the first hour when you log in a 24-hour day, the speed, the minimum speed, I believe, initially it was fixed at some 2 Mbps something. And then for the next hour onwards, after the first hour, it was being kept at the minimum level of 1 Mbps. The upper limit, again, it depends upon the number of users that are using simultaneously Wi-Fi at that railway station to the upper threshold limit of 1 Gbps. So it was not related to the 3G or the 4G services as such. It was more of a related to the pipe that has been dedicated to that particular station and a number of users that would be using and the time duration for which you had been using. There could be a problem like wherein you were not at the place where the coverage was not sufficient. So maybe for that reason, you did not have the good experience for that matter of fact.
Thank you. One last question from my side on this particular project. By providing a public Wi-Fi to the railway stations, what benefit does the project has or the government is gaining from this project?
Okay.
I see from my point of view, public Wi-Fi doesn't help much to the government in as such or to the project as such in terms of revenue.
Okay. See, in my understanding, there are a couple of benefits for all the entities being involved. So for example, if you talk about the central government, there are some benefits. For the Indian Railways, there are some benefits. For Google, there were some benefits. For RailTel, there were some benefits. Now talking about the government, or I would say the single benefit for each of the entity involved is the brand management. That is one benefit that each of the stakeholders get. They are able to increase their brand value. They are able to increase their access and they are able to increase their visibility. The other benefits for government, if we say, the other benefit for the government is that it provides a platform for all the G2C communication. So if in case that particular railway station is having a free public Wi-Fi, it is easier for the government to reach those people and to distribute the government to citizen services. For Indian Railways, it has a monetary benefit also, and for RailTel and for Google as well in terms of the advertisements that will be displayed as part of that free Wi-Fi. So there is a potential revenue that comes through the advertisement. And more important, when we are moving in this stage of digitalization, the important thing is to attract the audience, or I would say to capture the audience. So the biggest benefit out of a public Wi-Fi is to attract the audience, to capture the audience. For example, if you take the example of Paytm or Google Pay or WhatsApp for that matter of fact, they have a captive audience with them. So with that captive audience, which has been generated in the years, they would be able to launch the services in the future. So such projects, not just the public Wi-Fi projects, such projects which talk about creating a platform, the major objective is to have a captive audience, which can be supplied with services either on chargeable basis or free basis in the future. So it's more about creating a captive audience, in my understanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from Mr. Prem Singh. So can you tell about the team strength due to different geographical location and big project?
Okay. So see, in this particular project, because it was hand-coded by Google itself, so the Google they were using their own tools and they were predominantly using the Google Sheets, I would say, for tracking the project. And the team strength, like how it was being divided in RailTel, it was being divided region-wise. So each region had its own project manager. Under that project manager, there were a number of functional managers, and they were collaborating and coordinating with each other. And with the help of Google, they were able to manage the project. And these, like I mentioned, that the stations were divided in clusters. So the targets were fixed for each cluster, for each region. And that's how to meet those targets, the teams were coordinating.
Yes, so there were one more question. Which mode of communication used between the different sites by a single PM?
So there was not a single PM. There were multiple project managers in this particular project, and those project managers were segregated based on the region they were handling. And the mode of communication they used, there were like in-house tools also. There were in-house tools in terms of the daily presence conferences that were happening. And the Google Excel sheets and the Google monitoring tool was used for the communication. The Google spreadsheet, the Google tracking was used for the communication earlier in the project. And later on, even the project management tool has been used in the further deployment.
All right, thank you. Any further questions before we move forward? No, I think we can go forward, sir.
Fine. So we'll be moving to the last slide of the presentation. And this last slide of the presentation is again, in my understanding, is to connect to the first slide, which was talking about a project manager and a leader, and even the agenda or the webinar series of ProVentures, which is leadership webinar series. So why a marketing bent or a marketing mindset is important for a project manager, or I would say a marketing mindset is important for almost every employee of the organization. The benefits what a marketing mindset gives is it helps to increase the top line of the organization. That is the benefit for the organization if the employees have a marketing mindset. And for the employee, it helps him to understand the overall picture. Only when an employee is involved in some of the marketing activities, such as designing the solution for a prospective customer, having a techno marketing call with the prospective customer or the existing customers, or designing proposals for the prospective or the existing customers, he is able to not only upsell, but also cross-sell. So he's able to upsell the services of that organization. He's able to cross-sell the services of that organization. So if I had to relate with the practical example from my own experience, we had a customer who has taken only the internet bandwidth from RailTel. Now, internet bandwidth, as you all know, is the internet connectivity to that particular customer. But that customer, when I was talking to that customer, I could always tell him that there are other services such as telepresence services or the data center services or the VPN services which are being provided by RailTel. And understanding his requirement, analyzing his requirement, he ultimately also took the video conferencing facility from RailTel, which was cheaper for him because he was already connected to RailTel on one media. So RailTel was able to give that service, the additional service to the customer at a reduced price because the last mile delivery was already covered. So this is how we can cross-sell, we can upsell. So it is important that you attract the right audience, you engage that audience with the right content, you convert that audience into a customer, and finally you renew the relationship with your customer. Now these are the four key areas to develop a marketing mindset. You need to attract, engage, convert, and renew. It is important that you involve at each of these levels if you want to grow in your own role of a project manager, if you want to undertake responsibilities of a leader going forward, if you want to understand the overall picture, if you want to understand how the business can grow. So it is very important that you develop a marketing mindset and understand the business and grow the business. So that was indeed the last slide I had in the presentation. If in case there are any questions or any discussions, we can go ahead and talk about.
Yes, thank you, sir. So any questions based on this slide or anything about the session? can unmute and speak, or you can give in chat.
The second program you talk about, the railway, is a kind of program management, not a project management, because it has multiple projects within it. So what is so specific about the RFQ and the request information you provided in the quotation so that the Realtek will get this order? Like, what was so specific as a program manager you put over there?
See, I would say it was still a project. Reason being, it was a single project to provide the Wi-Fi connectivity at the railway stations across India. It was not a program because it was catering to the single project. Only it was geographically spread out, and it was having different lower level project managers for that, and they were interacting directly with the other stakeholders given the clusters and given the reasons they had. So on the RFP and the RFQ part, it was more related to the design to provide a seamless connectivity at the railway stations, and it had its own financial and technical qualities or the criteria that have to be fulfilled. So financial criteria, which are standard criteria as per the worth of the project, they were being picked, and technical criteria related to the management of similar kind of projects. So those were the standard or the key areas in order to pick the right vendors or in order to call for the right proposal or the right quotation, who meets the standard and the correct financial and technical criteria.
All right, thank you, sir. Anything else from anyone? You want to give any suggestions, feedback about the session? You can unmute and speak.
Also, I would like to add one thing, though it was being mentioned in the presentation at the beginning itself, there was a disclaimer that said that the views are personal. So I just wanted to clarify once again that whatever views are there as part of this presentation, as part of this webinar, are indeed personal, and they are nowhere related to the organization for that matter of fact. So just to clarify on that part.
All right. That is noted. Anything else from anyone? Wants to share your views and thoughts about the webinar, the topic, about the projects we discussed?
It was a good learning for me because last 20 years I was worked with a private company and we have a different methodology following the project management. So public domain, we have a different, just like MBOK. I never heard of the MBOK here. So it was a learning for me, the different aspects. So it was a good for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Anything else from anyone? I have also shared the feedback link in the chat. So I request all of you to click the link and it will take you to a feedback. So it's a few steps involved. So that will help us to improvise a webinar since we will be doing it continuously. So please fill up the session, and that will also help us to claim PDUs and send your certificate, this webinar certificate to your IDs. So please fill up the feedback. So meanwhile, if any other questions, we can go for it.
Ratna?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. So I just want to have a word with all the participants.
Sure, sure.
Have you shared about the PMI's incentive to this audience? In case
No, sir, no.
Okay,
No.
maybe, I'm not sure, is there anyone in this audience who have taken training, but for some reasons you could not go for PMP certification? Is there anyone here? If so, can you raise your hands? Because I have some good news for you. Who have trained, wanted to go for certification, but could not go for some reasons. Anybody?
Yeah, myself, Ashok.
Ashok, good. Thank
Good
you.
evening, sir.
Good evening. Okay, anybody else? I mean, may not be from provinces, but other organizations also. Some time back, you took the training, but not able to.
I said this is Panindra. Even I have also not taken the exam.
Okay, okay.
Sir, I have also not taken the exam, Meenakshi here.
All right, great. Okay, so I think the PMI has announced something like $111 incentive or discount for any people, okay, who would like to go for exam over the next maybe 6 months or so. Okay, but the catch here is you should pay the examination fee before 15th of August. Okay, so we have 2 more weeks. So you have to quickly, in a day or two, you need to submit the application form, and then PMI will take about 5 working days to review and approve. And then you will have another 5 more days, okay, to pay the exam fee. You can take the exam anytime, but in case if you are able to do these 2 processes, prepare the application, submit it, and then pay the exam fee. The exam fee will be how much, Ratna? 300 and
974.
292.
Yeah, with the $111 USD discount. So that will be like 349 they will have to pay.
349 US dollars.
Yes, yes. So
Okay,
before it was with tax, it was 477.
Okay, now it will be
349.
349. Oh, that will be a lot more actually.
Yes,
okay, for some strange reasons, the last few months, PMI is collecting 18% tax. Okay, I don't know to whom they are going to pay the tax. Even that is not there. So your examination fee will be only 349 US dollars, which I think is a good opportunity window also. And also, all of you would have taken that training based on 4th edition or 5th edition or 6th edition. So from January first week, the exam undergoes a change. So in case, okay, you want to complete your exam, you can quickly pay now within the next 2 weeks and take the exam anytime before December, so that you do it during the with the same education what you received. Okay, so that is something I thought I will inform you. After you pay the exam fee, okay, if you need any assistance in terms of refreshing the topics, okay, we conduct monthly certification follow-up sessions, and also we do special refresher courses, which you can take it up as part of it. And yeah, I don't know, I see there are many newcomers. So thank you so much for subscribing to this series. And we will, it is our kind of endeavor to bring in new topics so that it adds not just PDUs, but also good learning for your certification maintenance, as well as for the other general knowledge to grow in your career. So thank you so much from Provenchas for your participation in this webinar.
Yeah, sir, the number, the final number will be 367, sir. I'm sorry.
367.
37, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, that's good. Ankur, we had an opportunity to work with Ankur on that this one, the school, smart school project. In fact, from the client side also, we have our one of